The brain is whiter than the sky, for put them side by side, the one the other will contain, with ease and you beside. The brain is deeper than the sea, for hold them blue to blue, the one the other will absorb, as sponges buckets do. When I thought of making this performance, I imagined giving you an insight into my process of making performances. Ones who have witnessed my work from before know that I do this in all of them. It is revealing some secrets that otherwise aren't noticed. Somewhere I started to play with the imagination that my performances are unlocking something into the real world. Kind of where you start to see things in a new light. It was always there, but because you pay attention to it, it comes out. When you start following that line. Is it true? Is it real? What is real? During the Christmas holidays, I read this book called Humankind, A Hopeful History. And the outline of the book could be suggesting that a change of perspective of what you deem to be true shapes your relationship with your environment, yourself. I always longed for being in a story, a rich and epic story. One that sets out to break out of prisons of presumption about the goodness of humankind. I longed for a sort of wild romance. I didn't think it could really happen. A journey that is looking for the secrets of life. I am a dreamer. My father told me to wake up to reality. I was suddenly swung into it by my first performance, into the epic. That's where it started. I didn't know it back then, that it was the start, but even so I called it original position. The term I also found in the work by a philosopher, John Rawls. It says, in the original position, you are asked to consider which principles you would select for the basic structure of society, but you must select as if you had no knowledge ahead of time what position you would end up having in that society. This choice is made from behind the veil of ignorance, which prevents you from knowing your ethnicity, social status, gender, and crucially in Rawls' formulation, your or anyone else's idea how to lead a good life. Ideally, this would force participants to select principles impartially and rationally. The original position performance was taking place here in the Mountain Room in 2015 during this festival. I was rolling up from folded as a small ball to unfolding to standing up, very slowly. I thought to explore a most elemental behavior in a certain time and space. It symbolized a seed in hindsight, a seed in dark soil. I wanted to be in the position to see humankind in its fully good potential. From here two parallel tracks formed. They are intertwined. One track is me, let's say, the personal wanting to reach into that fully good potential in my treatment of myself and of others. The most vibrant and challenging play and testing ground for this is romantic relationship. The mysteries of love, the conditions of truly engaged collaboration, the framework of a whole partnership, a marriage where the persons are free in their true selves and lovingly bind together with a common cause, to be free, to set each other free in their true selves, and to be compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, and with an abundance of loyal love and faithfulness, so they can each blossom. The other track is all other, let's say all us, wanting to reach into the fully good potential in the whole of humanity. In the book of parable that was mentioned, an old man says to his grandson, "There is a fight going on inside me. It's a terrible fight between two wolves. One is evil, angry, greedy, jealous, arrogant, and cowardly. The other is good, peaceful, loving, modest, generous, honest, and trustworthy. These wolves are also fighting within you, and inside every person too." After a moment, the boy asks, "Which wolf will win?" The old man smiles. "The one you feed." How do you know what is good? Has it been said many times before, I do good, and it turned out people were dictated, enslaved, eliminated, manipulated for the betterment of the one who is in charge? Is it deceitful to be discerning good and bad? How can we know what is true? Now, look at it this way. What if the government of a country that centuries ago chased out and enslaved the first inhabitants said, "I am sorry for all the pains, the damage caused by all the times. They were wrong thinking what they were doing was good." Even when the current government never personally have been engaged, neither thus gave a consent to what happened back then. Or when embittered parents who stopped making connection with the child as the child took another path than a parent was wishing or ought to be claiming to be the right way, now ask their child for forgiveness on their cold-heartedness towards them. Or when a dictator of a nation suddenly realizes, wow, this has gone off track, and stopped making his way to reconciliation, saying, "I use my power to overrule you instead of serving you as a way of ruling to organize the land. I will release the captives, listen to you, and apologize for all the damage I have done. I know I have a long way to go, but will you accept my surrender? I am truly sorry. I will hear you distraught how my behavior has hurt you, and I won't make any excuses, neither abdicate my responsibility or start pointing blames. Or if a man steps forward, addressing women and saying, on behalf of man throughout history, I am sorry for the unequal position you were having. I see how little you are allowed to say, and were given no true space for you to let your voice be heard, therefore having perhaps only half of what is possible to know, do and think in the development on earth. I am sorry you got oppressed and dominated in various ways. I don't know how and why it happened, but I see it, and although partly, now is better here at least. When thinking what would be my power to do on this matter, I thought apologizing on behalf of man could be healing, even though it might not be my own personal fault. I have participated in Festival 4 times, 4 performances, weaving on the original position performance. When seeing all the performances next to each other, I noticed a thread. In 2015, there was a seed to grow in the original position. In 2019, in versions levels 1 to 6, I was unlearning all assumed patterns in a collective exploration, going to 0, to nothing, and building up as new. In 2020, there was the next stage in making substance of this original position with the question, what is original? What is true? In the aborification of the original position, I went off script, meaning to stay true, one needs to move, sometimes in the uncomfortable, maybe often actually, to that vulnerability, into the unknown, taking a risk, exposing. And now, what happens now? I drew the seed as it was radiating outwards. It starts to come into its environment. Original position. A tiny seed. Growing as a tree. Becoming a tree. Planted by water. Sending out roots by the stream. Do not fear where heat comes, for its leaves remain green. Don't be afraid in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. You can even move mountains.